afternoon, everyone. We're getting a late start because our speaker isn't going to get here till 12:30. So we hope you're enjoying your lunch and not too rushed about it. So we want to welcome our guests, Mary and Kylie, both from Kiwanis. They're here today as guests of Jeff.
Mary, I have another guest.
Oh, yes.
My friend Tim Lord is a realtor, works for me in the court. He's very, very capable realtor, and I wanted him to meet all you.
Welcome.
Distinguished people.
Welcome. Any other guests? I don't see anyone, any new guests? Yes?
Yeah, Robert Shula with Boys and Girls Clubs of Indianapolis. Thank you all for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Greg, do you have a thought for the day?
One thought. One thought for today.
Thanks. Only one. Remember tomorrow, you can say, I already tried this. Tomorrow you can say, it just seems like yesterday it was spring. All right, now, two things to say. First, so tomorrow you can say it's spring. It just seems like yesterday it was spring. All right, so two thoughts. First one is Willie Mays, who died, a great stalwart for civil rights and for baseball and for the state of Alabama, and he passed away. Certainly he and Jackie Robinson will be remembered for what they did for the bringing people together, and who can forget the over-the-head catch of that Willie Mays. And it's on the front page of, I think, the Star, but also major newspapers and media today. So as we know, yesterday was June 19th. So my words of wisdom on that will be this. In June 1865, freedom finally came to 250,000 enslaved people in Texas. There are no enslaved people in Texas now, of course. That day, which would become known as Juneteenth, the Army arrived to enforce what had already been the law of the land for 2.5 years from the Emancipation Proclamation. So yesterday we recognized June 19th as the end of official sin of slavery, but also the beginning of a work at the heart of the soul of our nation, making the promise America real for the American. As a personal note, in my family there is a story that in 1865, my great-great-grandfather landed in Galveston and was conscripted into the Union Army and sent to Texas to help free those and inform those persons under Reconstruction. I don't know if that's true, but it's certainly been something I've heard about. And then he came to Indianapolis, and here I am. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. We appreciate that. Okay, club announcements. Roger, you want to come on up and share?
Thank you, Mary. Okay, first on my item, lunches at Iozo's Garden of Italy, still the third Monday of each month. You're more than welcome to come and join us. Please let us know if you'd like to join, and I'll get plenty of seats for us. It's at Monday, 7:15, 11:30. You all know, I think, Dr. Gene Cease passed away a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I think Kelly has a card for each of us to sign to send to their family. So if you can do that before you leave. I see Kelly's handing out paid tickets for everybody on parking. So if you don't get one, see us after the meeting. I want to do a quick update on our SLPs, our service leadership programs. We currently have 3 active key clubs: Perry Meridian, Speedway High School, and Shortridge High School. And we have 1 builders club at Harshman Middle School. on the near east side. We're talking to Tech High School. They expressed interest in starting a key club, so we're going to do that this fall. We got two other builders clubs that have requested a club. One's Henry W. Longfellow Middle School in Fountain Square area. The other's T.C. Howe Middle School, used to be a high school. They've both expressed strong interest in starting one and have people in place to do that. Another item is our adaptive equipment, which includes tricycles, bicycles for kids that need some help. We've got two of them currently we're dealing with. One I think is going to be shipped today or tomorrow. Should be here next week, midweek, to a young fellow, 20-year-old, who got a bike from us in 2017. He's outgrown that one, requested another one, so we were able to do that. And this is thanks to the generosity of Bill Du Bois and Tom Dunham, stepped up and contributed some money to that fund. And then the other one, we've got a young girl, I can't remember, I think she's like 8 or 9, Maya, and we've ordered her one probably a month ago. It's not supposed to be here till mid-July. So those two are active and in progress. And I've got a hold in the bike that we've got for the young, older fellow. I've got his old one, so I'm trying to repurpose that to somebody. Sorry.
I've got this old one.
Well, I had it for a month and a half in my trunk. My wife was about to kick me out. She was, where am I put my groceries? Put them in the second seat, honey. I think that's all I've got. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Laura, you want to come share about SLPs?
Just an update in case you are not aware, we are sending two Key Club delegates from Perry Meridian High School to the International Convention this year. We're really excited, and this is all thanks to this club's foundation support. Without their support, these two students would not be able to attend convention, and it's for Haley Laverne, who's our Indiana District Webmaster, and Love Swayze, who's our Rose Division Lieutenant Governor. And so these two students are not only voting delegates, Love is also an oratory contestant, so she is in the contest. She won the district level contest and is now competing internationally. And we also have our year in review, our scrapbook in the competition as well. So Perry Meridian is extremely excited that they have this opportunity. And again, thanks to the total cost for convention with transportation, hotel, lodging the entire time. It's a week that they're there, is about $1,300. And these two students both work part-time jobs. That's just to support their families. And without this, they let us know that they wouldn't be able to attend. So we were able to subsidize the cost of their attendance, and the Indiana District, the Key Club, also helped with the webmaster's attendance. But the district doesn't pay the full ride for the whole board. So this is a big accomplishment that we were able to do for them. And I'll report in August, or maybe if we have a meeting the latter part of July, I'll report on how it all went and see if we won the contest. And Love and Haley will give you guys all a recap in their own words too, so it'll be really nice to see that. And next year is the 100th year of Key Club. So 1925 is when Key Club started. And we're hoping to do again and maybe invite even more. We could have Short Ridge, Speedway, all participate next year in Orlando. So hoping for great things for next year.
Thank you, Laura. Yes, Haley and Love were just so excited. I mean, they did fundraisers and just still couldn't get enough money. So they're very appreciative of us helping them go to this annual convention. Okay, Abe Lincoln, if you're on the Abe Lincoln Committee, this Saturday at 10 a.m. we will be at Kiwanis International Office in the headquarters there. Thank you, Laura, for opening that up to us, and she's going to give us a tour of the facility. Some of us haven't been in there. Last time I was there was when we planted the trees on a muddy Saturday outside the facility. So it's been a long time since I've been in the building. We're excited that it is the 50th year for Abe Lincoln. If you're on the committee, we thank you for being on the committee. If you want to be on the committee, we'd love to have you. And if you're going to be there Saturday, come a little bit early, like 5 minutes early, because Laura, I think, has to stay at the door and open everything for us. So that's Saturday. We would also like to once again thank Trent Cowles and Rockefeller Capital Management for helping to sponsor Abe Lincoln, as they've done in the past. As you know, it's a pretty incredible program, so thank him if you've seen him. Next week on the 27th, we're going to hear on Zoom from Annie Wood-Bell on positive and adverse childhood experiences. Adverse experiences in childhood can have detrimental lifetime outcomes, but we must also be more informed about ways we can mitigate negative impact with positive experiences. No meeting on July 3rd, and I won't be here because Roger and I will be in Denver at the Kiwanis International Convention. So, and Jeff, yes, and Jeff will be there too. So he and his team put this all together, so we have to thank Jeff for the annual convention.
We'll see how it goes.
We'll grade him. So we'll be back here at the Columbia Club on the 11th of July. We'll hear from Charlie Lanich and Claire Radford, education reporters for the Mirror Indy. Do you remember the program with Bro Crift and Holly Hayes last February about Indiana local news, the news initiative? And in December they launched their first newsroom, and that's Mirror Indy. So we're going to hear an update on how they've been doing since they opened.
Mary, we're going to have some special guests that day from Shoreditch Key Club.
Oh, wonderful.
From MS Broadcasting. So
Wonderful.
We'll hopefully have a good turnout for that.
Great. That'll be great. Chuck Cotterman, where's Chuck? Chuck, you want to talk about IMS?
Sure.
And the safety patrol?
Well, I know when it's 95 degrees out and kind of tropical, it's a little hard to think about snow and football and all that, but we're just starting to do some initial planning for the big Kiwanis Colts banquet, football banquet for Marion County. And we've reached out to the Colts group, Andy Matus, who is our contact with Colts. Haven't really heard much from him yet, so it's still early. So I guess at this point, not much to report, but we, are you leaving, Rob? Are you leaving? Our committee's here. Hey, maybe we could have a committee meeting
Rob
today.
has priorities and cookies.
So, our whole committee is here. I guess we could have, we're missing one person. We could have a committee meeting today, I guess. So, anyway. So there's not much to report yet, but it's still early. And just the initial organization planning. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. So a few years back, when Karen Burns moved to what was the athletic club where we had our meetings forever, she had an open house. And so we asked her if she would be willing to do that again this year, which she is going to do. She's a very gracious lady. So we're gonna have an open house at her condo on Tuesday, July 30th, so put that in your calendar. Stay tuned for more information about that.
She's not in the athletic club anymore.
Say again?
Did she move into the athletic club, you said?
Yeah, when they converted them all to township.
She doesn't know her house.
She's over by like where Market Square really used to be, she's on Market Street.
Oh, she is? Oh, okay, well, news for me. There
Be
you
sure
go.
to alert everyone so we're.
Yeah, so she moved since then, so what do I know? What do I know?
Game.
Okay, yeah, I've slept since then. All right, August 22nd, we're gonna hear from Dr. Alex Kaur and our own, very own Graham Honecker about their new book, A Blessing, Not a Burden. So mark your calendars for that. That should be very, very interesting. We're still working to reschedule our Zoom meeting with Elizabeth Carr, the first IVF baby in the U.S. Remember, she was sick and wasn't able to come a few weeks ago. Visit the website, indykiwanis.org, for the list of programs that are scheduled. The 3 upcoming programs will also be on the homepage. And you can go to the upcoming events section for a complete list. We'll also share information on Facebook. I'd like to introduce Robert Shula with Boys and Girls Club to recap the $2,500 grant we provided for them in 2023 for their aquatic program at Wheeler Down. The floor is yours.
Afternoon, my name is Robert. I am the Chief Development Officer for Boys and Girls Clubs of Indianapolis. I've been in that role just about a year in August, so relatively new to the 131-year-old organization that's been in this city since 1893, which is pretty impressive. We like to say that we're the oldest nonprofit in the city. I'm still fact checking that, so don't quote me on it, but we'll see. Regardless, we've been around a long time, and that is because of the support of folks like you. This grant specifically allowed us to keep our pool at our Wheeler Dow location, which, if you're familiar, it's at 30th and Keystone, basically, in the Martindale-Brightwood neighborhood, which is traditionally a poverty-stricken neighborhood, and we are fortunate enough to be an anchor that provides the kids of that neighborhood a safe place to go, to play, learn, and find mentors that can guide them on the right path toward a successful life. Part of that is because we have a pool at the actual location, an indoor pool, and traditionally pools are very expensive to keep open, as you can imagine. And so we have not had that pool open over the summer hours, and then also only open for 6 weeks of the year just due to costs. And because of this grant that you guys provided last year, we were able to keep the pool open all summer and hire a lifeguard, which is crucial, obviously. And then also some of the funding went toward partnering with a group called Seascope to teach our kids how to swim. Because it's great if you have a pool, but if they can't swim, it's a slight problem. And so we were able to train over 150 kids in swim safety, and then additionally, they moved on to scuba training if they were interested. So some of our kids actually got to go on a trip to the Caribbean, which is amazing as most of them have not left their neighborhood on the east side. So it was an amazing opportunity for us and for our kids. So we can't thank you enough for your support. And the pool is actually open again this year, thanks to a grant from the Cummins Foundation. So we'll just keep seeking those funds to keep that pool open so we can train those kids on swim safety to keep them safe.
Do you know how many kids were able to utilize the pool last year?
In total last year, we had about 450 kids come through the pool through various programs.
And do you have swim classes as well?
We do, yeah. And in fact, they cannot swim in the pool until they've taken a swim class. And again, that Seascope partnership, which is a local organization, provides some of their own grant funding to provide on-site safety training for our kids. And that particular location is about 99% African-American youth. And the statistics on swimming and swim safety and drowning specifically is much higher in that community. And so this is a great chance for us to target a very focused effort to teach those kids how to swim. And that funding helped do that last year.
And the scuba, it used to be you had to be 16 to scuba, is that still?
That's still part of it, yeah, but luckily that club in particular has a large teen population, and we're trying to increase teens right now. It's a big focus for us, for many reasons, as our locations in the city are in typically those high crime areas that the city's trying to alleviate some of that, so we're a big part of that as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you again, and thank you for the support. We truly appreciate it.
Okay, as soon as Taylor gets here, you'll hear her speak, so just commits at your tables, I guess, is what you do.
Mary, can I have something?
You can.
That SLP day, Laura, on July 11th.
You do an ask me.
Do you have an advisor and a student for Perry that would like to come up? Chelsea and.
Okay, I'll invite
Becky.
Melanie. Melanie might be out of the country.
Oh, my.
Yeah. But we
Don't
can-
come back to this. Well, I just wanna make sure you do.
Yeah,
all the things you do.
maybe we can, also follow up later on and invite Haley and Love, and they can report in person. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds good.
Well, that's the.
Anybody been to any of the swimming events? Oh, I know, yeah, I'm sure you have.
Yeah, I actually got to go there during the construction, which was pretty amazing.
It's
Yeah.
amazing, it looks amazing, I can't believe how clear the water is
Yeah.
on TV.
Yeah.
Cause you could literally see all the way across the pool, it looks like.
The thing that's amazing to me about it, and I've gone through three of the sessions, and I'm going to see that when you're sitting there, it's 50 meters long, and you don't realize how big that is until you're sitting there. And I'm not a terrible swimmer, so it would take me like 10 minutes to get across what they're doing in 60 seconds. So it's well worthwhile if you get a chance to go to it. And so the other thing that's kind of interesting about it is, which I appreciate when I got to see it during construction, is there's not really a bad seat, except for maybe on the end. But what would be a not great seat for football is a really good seat for swimming.
It looks packed.
Yeah.
On TV
Yeah,
last
22,000
night.
people last night, which is a record.
Amazing.
How deep is the pool?
It's about 8 feet deep.
Will they leave us there afterwards for a little while?
No, although I've been lobbing to have a staff employee swim day afterwards, but like Caddyshack. But you always go for that. Although you could actually, and it's only on Sunday, but you could actually swim there at 6:30 in the morning if you donate $1,000 to USA Swimming. So you can actually swim in if you want.
Is there a set temperature for water?
Did you come a different way?
There's got to
They
be.
didn't see you.
I don't know what it is.
I was like, Charles. That's funny. He's like, no, she's not here yet. He's totally. Well, okay, Taylor.
Well, Art, thank you for the update. Okay, we're back. I would like to introduce Taylor Schaffer. She is coming from the Visit Indy, and prior to this, prior to joining DII as president and CEO in October of '22, she was communications director and eventually chief of staff and chief deputy for the mayor. Previously, she served as a marketing communications strategist and account leader for Indianapolis-based advertising agency Young Larimore and Bandy Carroll, I can't pronounce it. Hellage. Yeah. She currently serves many local nonprofits as a board member, including Visit Indy, Mary Rigg Neighborhood Center, and the Athenaeum Foundation, utilizing her expertise in fundraising, event planning, and strategic partners. She's a 2011 communications graduate of Indiana State.
Hi.
Taylor, come on over.
Wonderful.
The floor is yours.
Thanks. Thank you all for letting me be here today, and I'm so sorry for being so late.
It's a wonderful problem to have when downtown is this busy. But I left the downtown Indy board meeting at 12:20, exactly when I was supposed to, and it took longer to get over here than I would have thought. So my first question is, how do you all define downtown? We'll say there's no right or wrong answers. I'm calling on the group. How do you define downtown? Okay. Would anyone define it as bigger than that? Interesting. Okay. So I will tell you, I'll tell you I usually get a range of answers. Mile Square, North, South, East, and West Street has defined a lot of our work, especially operationally. I think historically some of that focus has been even more concentrated in the wholesale district. So if you imagine south of here to the railroad tracks, really anchored by Gainbridge Fieldhouse and the convention center. But I think oftentimes when we talk about it, especially in terms of data sets, we often talk about it as the regional center, which is bounded by highways on 3 sides and White River State Park on the west side. I think it's useful to talk about that partially because I also like to begin by talking about the numbers. What does downtown look like today? Hold on, let's scoot this a little bit so I can actually see. I got this. Nope, okay. I'm just gonna talk really loudly and we're gonna hope you all can hear me. Was that a problem for this? No, okay, great. I'm gonna talk really loudly and hope that you can hear me. I think, especially when we were created when we were incorporated in 1993, one of the impetus for that was Mayor Goldsmith knew that Circle Center was a few years out, and the first new residential properties were being built along Ohio Street. To think about that and the first new residential properties to a time in which we have more than 29,000 residents calling the regional center home, I think is a useful grounding in terms of the evolving nature of downtown. Same thing with apartment units. I think for so long we thought about downtown as a place really for fresh out of college or empty nesters. In our last 2 State of Downtown reports, we've seen an increase in families. Who is calling downtown home continues to evolve. We see, we're missing a million there. We see about 49 million visitors to downtown on an annual basis that support our hospitality industry, where more than 80,000 people work in restaurants, bars, hotels, arts and cultural institutions, sporting venues. We know that downtown continues to be a tourism asset, whether that's for our conventions and events or for folks from across central Indiana and the state, but that balance continues to, that dynamic of weighing how you cater to a downtown for residents and how you continue to have a world-class city for events like the ones we're hosting right now, I think continues to be an evolving conversation for us. One additional reference point, we saw an almost 50% increase in the residential population from 2010 to now. That's a startlingly larger number of folks calling downtown home. Like I said, we are consistently seeing not just new apartments coming online, but a continued pipeline of projects that prioritize residential. We're continuing to see a larger emphasis on apartments as condos tend to be more difficult to pencil out, especially in downtown. But we also know that one of the draws for people, and especially for headquarters companies that are thinking about downtown as a hub, not just for themselves, but for a workforce, is that diversity. I had a lovely conversation when I first started in this role with the team at High Alpha, and they were talking about how at their current headquarters in Bottle Works, they are within walking distance of condos, of housing with yards, of pretty easily accessible apartment units for fresh out of college folks, or for folks that's just the housing choice that they have. That continues to be one of the draws for downtown. We also like to talk about, I'm gonna scoot this over a little bit because it's driving me crazy. If I ruin this completely, note that it was my own fault. Too far? Better?
No,
Keep going. Close enough.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay,
Close
perfect.
enough.
We'd like to talk about a $9 billion development pipeline. What does that mean? That includes projects like IU Health, which if it hasn't interrupted your commute at one time or another, then you're not coming downtown nearly often enough. That also includes things like one of the reasons that I'm so sweaty this morning, which is the cultural trail expansion. We have 2 cultural trail expansions that are currently underway. The Indiana Avenue one just opened, which will connect that corridor all the way to 16 Tech when the new bridge opens. We also see a mix of really residential developments and innovative uses for existing buildings, alongside investment that really focuses on that events industry, that hospitality industry, and that tourism industry. I think the other thing I would note, oftentimes one of the questions that I get as we talk about downtown and downtowns writ large is, what does building conversion look like? And I think there's something to be said about our market, that there were so many building conversion projects underway even pre-pandemic. You think about the new hotel on Market Street, you think about Hotel Indy on Washington, you think about the former AT&T building just out these windows. All of those were office building conversion projects that were underway prior to the pandemic, and now you're adding things like the City Market campus to that, and I think there's a lot to be proud of in terms of development downtown. So if that's grounding in where downtown is right now, then a little bit about who we are as an organization. If our vision is for downtown Indianapolis to be the vibrant, welcoming, and fun heart of Indiana's cultural and economic life, then we're there to be the champion, to be the convener, to be the steward and ground level operations folks for making that vision a reality. I grew up in Terre Haute, so about an hour and a half from here. And downtown was where you came to do back to school shopping. It was where you came to the zoo in the summer months, and I got to come watch the Nutcracker over the holidays. And I think that that is a true dynamic for so many people. Oftentimes one of the other questions I get is, what's the difference between downtown Indy and Visit Indy? Visit Indy's metric is really heads and beds, right? It's about how we are filling our hotels through conventions and events. The meeting I just came from, they were talking about those metrics now and looking over the next couple of years. For us, we're really focused on a central Indiana audience. We are thinking about the day-to-day operations, the day-to-day uses, the day-to-day both livability but also workability and utilization of downtown. And what does it look like for downtown to be cared for and accessible for that? We do that in 4 ways. First bucket is what we call clean, safe, and cared for. You may have seen on your way in here today our clean team in neon green shirts. You may have seen our safety ambassadors in red shirts, even as hot as it is. It's also about partnering with IMPD to supplement their efforts with off-duty foot and bike patrols in downtown. And one of the things we've increasingly talked about as an organization and the board is, especially post-pandemic, just having downtown picked up was kind of the first priority. Now, as we are in a place where we have more resources, which we'll talk about in a minute, and we're able to do that more consistently, what does it look like for that delivery of service not to just be, is there trash on this street, but are there weeds on the street? Does the bed feel cared for? Does the area feel cared for? Because those are the types of things that probably aren't the reason that anyone comes to Indianapolis, but they're certainly the reason people can come back. And so what does it look like to be able to have an operational capacity that really matches that, the evolving nature of our downtown? Marketing communications, I talked a little bit about us being incorporated in 1993. Marketing communications was a critical part of Mayor Goldsmith's vision for our organization. From that time, we've actually had 2 boards, a governance board that oversees our 501c3 like you would imagine a governance board would, and then a marketing and communications board that brings together marketing and communications professionals from so many of the major downtown institutions to, on a quarterly basis, brainstorm, collaborate, share information, identify opportunities for partnerships. We were just talking over at Visit Indy about this year when Spark wraps up, we'll do a smaller footprint inside of the bollards around the holidays. We'll have Santa. Santa will be out there for certain hours, specifically in between Yuletide showings and in between Christmas Carol showings. We'll have some performances and music, some arts and crafts for kids, some holiday treats that people can buy. That is really an extension of that marketing and communications group who for years has gone in a co-op setting for a couple of statewide ad buys around holiday institutions, everything from the Idle George State Museum, Historical Society, in the last couple of years, Athenaeum and Chris Kindle Market, and Bicentennial Unity Plaza. All of those things coming together because together we can amplify that assortment of opportunities and programming more effectively than doing it on our own, or any of those institutions doing it on our own. What we did last year was actually take that one step further with out of home, with signage across downtown, with really cute notepads that we gave to all of our cultural institutions and hotels that had the map of downtown in this cute little like Candyland style that showed all of the different holiday activations and programming happening around downtown. We believe that being a collective voice for downtown makes downtown better. Public space experience. I would tell you, if you looked at a grid like this for us many years ago, we would have called this bucket events. And I think both the evolution of organizations like ours and the evolution of a post-pandemic reality for downtown Indianapolis, we're talking about this more in terms of how people are experiencing our public spaces. And maybe even what I mean more than that is why people need to experience our public spaces. For a long time, especially 2021, 2022, when I first started in this role, so many people would say to me, no one's downtown. Well, as evidenced by the fact that it took me like 35 minutes to get from the convention center to here, there's people downtown. But what does it look like to give them a reason to not just go to their destination and leave, but to spend time in it, to frequent the local business that they may not have experienced in a while, or that may have opened since the last time they were in downtown? What does it look like to be able to spend those dollars and utilize their time in ways that aren't just supporting the local economy, but are also supporting the vibrancy of downtown, or helping to make downtown feel more safe? Because enlivened public spaces, spaces that have a lot of people in them, are always going to feel more both nurturing of community and safer than empty spaces where you may not know what you're going to experience. And then the last bucket is really in that advocacy capacity and resources. We're a membership-based organization, and so a lot of what we do is help to support our members through data collection, through retail and commercial connections, through helping to show off Indianapolis as they're attracting new clients or new tenants and things like that. None of that is particularly novel. There are organizations like ours all across the country. Mayor Goldsmith was maybe a little bit ahead of the curve when he incorporated us, but what you would see if you looked at many place-based management organizations like ours, is a lot of them were created in the 90s, because a lot of them were grappling with some of the similar issues that we as a community were at the time. And so organizations like ours help to address this spectrum of needs and programming. What I would say is that no organization that I know of across the country is doing all of these things, but a lot of them, but you'd see a lot of consistency, you'd see a lot of similarities in the types of programming, the types of interventions, the types of staffing that come alongside organizations like ours. And we continue to try to learn best practices from other organizations that are doing it really well. That work also got a shot in the arm about 18 months ago with the city of Indianapolis committing $3.5 million to really increase our staffing levels for street level operations. What I mean by that is increase public safety presence, increase clean teams, increase homeless outreach services here in the Mile Square. Knowing that 2024 was going to be, is currently being an incredibly catalytic and busy year for downtown, and understanding the evolving nature of downtown. Many, if not all, of the dots that you see on this previous slide have some sort of sustainable, consistent funding mechanism where dedicated resources are going in to that central business district or downtown. These dollars were intended to be sort of a pilot program to see what it would be like for us to be able to have dedicated resources along those same lines. That allowed us to grow our clean team. We went from about 7 part-time individuals in partnership with HVAC, an incredible organization that's doing really great work for veterans that are either experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, bringing them into a job program, giving them training. That was wonderful. What I would say to you is, it's not enough. It's not enough to be able to provide a level of consistent services that I think our downtown deserves. These dollars allow us to supplement that to 7 days a week with more than 30 individuals working across the mile square. It is our safety ambassadors. It is supplementing IMPD's presence with additional foot and bike patrols that really allow for a catered one-to-one relational service with our street level, stakeholders at businesses, at restaurants, at hotels, those that are really on the front lines of some of the challenges that we face downtown. We're able to create that one-to-one relationship with both the safety ambassadors and the additional patrols. And then lastly, the homeless outreach workers. This is a partnership with Horizon House and Adult and Child, because I'm a firm believer that we're a business-based, membership-based organization that isn't the right people to try to deliver those services on our own, but we can be a convener, we can be a partner, and we can help to ensure that those lines of communication remain open. And that is what we've been able to do by being a partner with those dollars, increasing the number of outreach workers working in downtown from 2 to 8. Additionally, as I mentioned earlier, we're also really investing in programming that prioritizes foot traffic. As you can see out the window, if you move closer over in that direction, this incredible space on the northwest quadrant of Monument Circle that has brought together Big Car, Indiana War Memorials Commission, City of Indianapolis, the CIB, and Downtown Indy to provide a space that is both activated with programming, but also just consistently managed, right? So that it doesn't necessarily need to be that you're going there for a musician, although that happens on Wednesdays. Or you're not necessarily going there for a program, although we do a Wake Up Wednesdays that is tailored to workers in the towers doing coffee and donuts out there. You can just go out and sit. You can just go enjoy the space. You can just go enjoy the heart of downtown and one of our most incredible assets, the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, but in a space that feels safe. It has 24-hour security there that feels well managed. We have teams that are just dedicated to the upkeep and maintenance of that area. It has a food and beverage stand so that when you're taking a child to go experience the giant blocks, which are always the kids' favorite out there, you could maybe partake in a coffee or donut or perhaps adult beverage utilizing that stand, and it just really creates a space. I think that speaks to truly the intersection of downtown users. You go out there right now, and I can assure you, even as hot as it is, I was out there at lunch yesterday, you will see people that are out there on their lunch break. You'll see people who are in for USA swimming trials. You'll see people who are just residents of the downtown area with kids running around, with dogs that they're taking on a walk. And that's what we want. We want more of those spaces that really cater to that intersection of downtown users. So, 4 things I'm excited about. Have I gone completely over my time? Okay, we're good.
You
4
still have
things.
people here?
That's true. So I'll do this really, really quickly, and then I'm happy to answer questions or just stick around afterwards. 4 things I'm really excited about this year. I don't think it can be underestimated the amount of programming that we have in downtown. And we like to say that that began with NBA All-Star and goes all the way through Taylor Swift. But whether it is conventions like Sweets and Snacks, like FDIC, like Gen Con, whether it's events like the Olympic Trials, this is truly, I think, a transformative year for downtown. And while I love my partners at Visit Indy, I appreciate what that does for our hospitality industry, I also think selfishly that it's an incredible opportunity for Central Indiana folks who have felt disconnected from downtown, who have not been down here in a while, who have not experienced it, to be able to really fall in love with what makes downtown so special. I don't think you can walk Georgia Street right now and not think this is really cool. And it's not just the programming that's on there, although Sports Corp and all of those partners have done an incredible job. You also look to your right-hand side and you have massive cranes in the air putting up the Signia Hotel. You have Circle Center on the left, in which the Hendricks team is well on the way to helping to transform that property. And on the other end, you've got Bicentennial Unity Plaza, that if you haven't had the chance to go out and experience, there'll be a roller skating floor out there before too long. In the winter, there'll be ice skating once again. It's an incredible community gathering space with a mural on the side of that building commemorating so many of our Indianapolis foremothers and fathers. And it's incredible to see. So I think that to me is what's so exciting about 2024. I've already stepped on my second thing, which is transformative projects. I think it's easy with the number of projects to lose sight of just how many there are in the pipeline. And not just in the pipeline, because we all know that an announcement is an announcement. But the number of cranes in the air, the number of the work that is underway, I pull out of the parking garage and have to drive down Penn. I live in Holy Cross, just around the corner. And so the current traffic that is as a result of the construction happening on the Oddfellows building is personally something I probably cuss about in my car every single afternoon, but I think is also indicative of really rethinking some of these spaces in new and transformative ways, and I'm so excited about that pipeline of development and investment. One of the things that I often talk about is when you look at the Signia project, the bonds that were purchased to be able to build that facility came from investors literally all across the globe. And you look at things like that, you look at Hendricks, which is not a local developer, despite having made some significant investments here in Indianapolis, that are betting on our downtown, that are betting on the future of those projects and that development. And I think that's really exciting. Number 3 is public spaces. I think not only, I think for all of us, were we so excited to see Spark back on the circle, to be able to expand it through the holidays, to be able to think critically about how we're activating it both around major events. The Olympic rings will be out there in another 36 hours, but also what it means day to day for families. I am not a particularly sentimental or emotional person, and I was pretty heartened by, we started set up that right after the race, so that last week in May. And by Friday, you had people that were nearly busting down the barricades, being like, "This was our favorite part of last year. We want it up. When it will actually be open? When can we be here? We want to have lunch here. We want to bring our kids back here." And I think that is both so indicative of the love people have for downtown, but also what it means to be able to create meaningful public spaces. And then my last one is, not that any of you necessarily lived and breathed this the way I did, but the conversation around the Economic Enhancement District has been an interesting one the last 2 General Assembly sessions, but it's really been one that our community has been engaged in for 30 years. When we were created, the idea was to be able to set up some sort of mechanism for a dedicated funding stream. And so as I think about what it could mean to get this over the finish line, even with all of the discussion, even with all of the compromises, even with all of the kind of creative work we've had to do, when you look at that map, it's just so clear that our downtown is at a competitive disadvantage when it comes to day-to-day operations, when it comes to the day-to-day livability and cleanliness and safety and operations of the space. And we have the opportunity in partnership with the City County Council to really get that over the finish line and ensure that over the long run, we're not just attacking problems as they come up, we're not just being responsive to issues, but really being able to invest in our downtown over the long term. And I'm really excited about that. So with that, I talked a lot.
Questions?
How negative do you think it is, the discussion about the soccer in Indianapolis? Is that a distraction to people outside the city?
That's an interesting question. I guess what I would tell you is that I think Indianapolis isn't necessarily unique in that, right? I think there's a lot of dialogue as the markets are tightening around these leagues about what it looks like for that to be in a community. You have so many communities that are grappling with ownership wanting to move out of cities, of what it looks like to build new stadiums. And I think that even as contentious as perhaps some of this dialogue has been over the last couple of months, I think Indianapolis is incredibly lucky to have two current major league teams with owners that are really committed to both downtown and the future of downtown. And I think that as these conversations evolve with soccer, my hope is that any future investment really mirrors that same sort of mindset and mentality of Indianapolis does things differently. And I think that's been part of the ethos with all of our sports teams as well as all of our big events. And my hope is that continues to be true as these soccer conversations continue. Yeah.
You mentioned about Georgia Street and seeing the people there, which is really terrific.
Yeah.
This week, and I was thinking when I was, I'm there all the time.
Yeah.
That's where I work at the convention center. But,
Yeah.
can you talk about the future of Georgia Street? What's going to happen there?
So I think ultimate plan is for Georgia Street to be pretty wholesale, receive a wholesale transformation. It's another area that you could go block by block and in some cases sort of parcel by parcel of the investment and plan development that's happening. You have Mr. Simon's ownership and plans for CSX on the east side. You have Circle Center and Hendrix's, I think, pretty aggressive plans for that area. You have the Signia, as well as that adjacent parking garage happening on the west end. And I think it's been clear for a while a couple of things. The beauty of Georgia is how easily it can be transformed for an event, but also it was really built for the Super Bowl. And I think everyone is in agreement that it's time to readdress what that could look like. I think the West Block Convention Center is really committed to viewing it as sort of a continuation of their facility. I can't tell you the number of events that we are called in to help with programming for, whether that's food trucks because they want something easily accessible for the size and scale of attendees that they'll have, whether that's sort of tailored music opportunities, tailored speech opportunities, those type of things that really are a continuation of the convention, but get to feel more like they're in the community, like they're of community, than you necessarily get the feel of inside of the beautiful but Indiana Convention Center. And so that West Block, the intention, in my understanding, is to transform into a public space that can be utilized and run by the Indiana Convention Center as a continuation of the Convention Center expansion and that West Block as a whole. And then with the idea being that the middle and East Block, you'd move traffic to the inside, which would allow for larger sidewalk areas, which would also allow for things like patio seating, some of the things that were sort of imagined as part of the original design, but I think for some logistical reasons haven't necessarily come to fruition in the ways that perhaps were originally imagined. And so being able to make those investments to both ensure that there's some safety and longevity to the infrastructure investments, but also that the development on each side, I think, can really benefit from that expanded footprint and maybe more pedestrian-friendly corridor 365 days a year and not just during incredible events like the ones we're seeing right now.
So first, I moved to Indianapolis when I was first getting started in 2008. We moved to Fountain Square and then bought a home in Bates Hendricks in 2018, and have benefited from all of these, all
just talked about, from the cultural trail to the development with, even public transit, the transit center. So it's really nice to see everything, the progress continuing and the facts, that you've shared here and updates. It's really exciting, so thank you for sharing all of that.
Wait, can I ask a nosy question?
Sure.
If you're talking to someone generally, do you refer to yourself as a downtown resident?
Yes, I think it's much bigger than the miles where, I mean, I think the highways maybe could be the marker like you described.
So like I said, I live in Holy Cross. I'm on Arsenal between Michigan and New York, and I refer to myself as a downtown resident unless I'm like talking to someone in the athletic club who always wants to be like, that doesn't count. And
It counts,
Yeah.
it definitely counts. But I guess my question is about, can you say anything about volunteers? And I didn't know if any of those operations groups that you mentioned are volunteers. And do you have any information about the impact that they make on the development?
So what I would tell you is no. The operations teams are staff. And part of our reason for that was we've long done community cleanups. And that's great, and we did 3 days of them leading up to Olympic trials, and the wonderful folks of Indianapolis Airport Authority, One America, and then a group of just Sports Corp volunteers did some incredible landscaping work on Washington, Georgia, and South Street. With that said, what we're talking about is every single day, how does downtown feel cared for? And with the amount of foot traffic we have, with the amount of residents we have, with even in today's world, the amount of workers we have downtown, we can't keep up with that if you're just talking about a monthly volunteer opportunity. And so for those, part of our focus has been how do you have that with a level of consistency and with increased standards that really live up to that need. With that said, for all of our major events, specifically, I would say to you 4th of July and Circle of Lights, we always do a solicitation for volunteers. We love having downtown stakeholders that help to make that event wonderful and magical, setting people in the right direction, being that kind of friendly face. We are, in addition to some of the public space things I talked about, we are the caretakers of Circle of Lights here the Friday after Thanksgiving. We are the caretakers of the 4th of July fireworks, which will take place on American Legion Mall, beginning with a street fest at 6 o'clock on the 4th, and that'll run all the way until fireworks at I think 10:05. So both of those, we always love to be able to have volunteers for. We also do it for some smaller things like our State of Downtown event. And if you go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, you'll be able to see all of the above for that.
Was moving the court system and building that huge administrative center way out on Southeastern Avenue a good or a positive or a negative for Indianapolis?
Well, I think the Community Justice Campus out there has certainly probably done a handful of things, but one that's most evident, at least once again to me on my drive home every day, is allowed for some really underutilized pieces of property to begin thinking about what the development potential for them is. Like I said, most days if I can get out of this parking garage, I cut across to Market and take Market all the way home. And when you think about the Elevator Hill, many of you might know is the Angie's List campus, and the development that's happening there, the new residential apartments, the creative uses of some of those buildings, and then what's currently happening, which is the demolition of Jail 2 and the APC, those two buildings. They're not being fully demolished. There are some historic pieces of them that will continue to be maintained. There are also some pieces with some less structural integrity that are being taken down, and that entire complex is planned for redevelopment. Like I said, as someone who lives literally right around the corner, I'm so excited to have that be restaurants, to have that be coffee shops, to have that be housing and office space, as opposed to what it had been, which is where you dropped people off when they were going to jail. And I think that both in terms of the overall conditions of those, as well as the development potential, I would say the same thing for the current, with Jail 1, the building behind the transit center. That's somewhere that is still being utilized a little bit, not as a jail, but as a forensics and storage facility. Those will be relocated out to the Community Justice Campus. here, I think before too terribly long. And when you think about the development potential for that, especially as we're having that conversation about that kind of entire corridor, I think it's really exciting to see those spaces, which are, I mean, in the heart of what should be really exciting and vibrant space, being able to thoughtfully invest in them, being able to bring people into them, as opposed to them being a place that maybe none of us actually want to end up. That I think that's really exciting for downtown.
When I look at the big picture, I see contrasting situations. Just to point it out, there's been a number of things done to help people walk downtown, or ride a bike, or take a bus, at the detriment of driving downtown. So for people that don't live downtown, I think you got a two-sided sword here. I think it's more difficult now to drive downtown than it used to be.
In what ways?
You're taking up lanes by buses, and places, can't turn right on red. I mean, just, bike lanes and all that. I'm not saying good or bad. I'm saying it's a balancing act. And so you have the risk of people visualizing in their mind that it's harder to drive. And therefore, I mean, if you're down there, it's easier to walk around, do things, but harder to drive around. So somebody needs to think about that balancing act that's out there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that are thinking about that balancing act. I think the hope is that by creating streets that don't feel like 3 or 4 lane highways, some of the conversions to 2 ways, post all of this construction that's happening everywhere currently, I think the hope is that it creates a space that people want to be in. And as we think about INDOT's incredible investments in the highway systems and the long-term future of the entire loop, alongside city streets that are increasingly speaking to that balancing act. They're no longer sort of one way into downtown for on rush hour in the morning and one way out of downtown in the evening. That hopefully what you create is a community that can speak to all of those needs. And so often what we hear is, for years, Visit Indy would tell you that walkability was the number one thing that they heard from meeting planners, was the number one thing they heard from those attending events downtown as the draw. And I think that has also been true for residents, that when people are choosing it, it's also because of that interconnected nature. It's because of how easy that is. And so as we think about the downtown of today versus the downtown of 30 years ago, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We continue to have to balance those realities moving forward.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, everyone. Great questions. So we are going to give a donation in your name to the Trinity Haven, which is, they provide safe, affirming housing for LGBTQ plus youth experiencing housing instability. And we thank you for your time here. Thank you very much. Indianapolis just keeps getting more exciting and more fun, and we're happy about that. Okay, silly dad joke. You dress for what you want, not for where you are. So you walk into the interview dressed as Superman. And we are adjourned.